There is a specific, haunting silence that exists only inside a building meant to be full of people. It is a heavy, pressurized quiet that rings in the ears. You might find it in the middle of a collapsed shopping mall, where a single skylight casts a beam of dusty sun onto a dead escalator, or in the master bedroom of a Victorian mansion, where the wallpaper is peeling away like sunburnt skin. In these spaces, time doesn't move linearly. It pools in corners like stagnant water. We are currently living in a golden age of ruin porn, a digital era where millions of viewers spend their Sunday nights huddled over glowing screens, watching urban explorers crawl through rusted air ducts or walk to the hollowed-out shells of mid-century hospitals. But why? Why does the sight of a rotting armchair in a collapsed living room or a fleet of rusted-out 1950s Cadillacs in a forest clearing evoke such a visceral reaction? It isn't just curiosity. It is a profound, subconscious confrontation with our own transience. To look at an abandoned house is to look at a mirror of the future. It is a reminder that without the constant manic energy of human maintenance, the natural world begins its slow, methodical reclamation project within hours. When we speak of abandoned structures, we often focus on the before and the after. We talk about the family that once lived there or the corporate greed that shuttered the factory. However, the most compelling part of any ruin is the middle state, the process of decay itself. Architecturally, a house is a machine designed to keep the outside out. We spend billions of dollars annually on sealants, shingles, whether stripping and paint, all to fight the inevitable pressure of the elements. The moment a human stops turning the doorknob, the machine begins to fail. The roof, the first line of defense. Once a single shingle slips, water enters. Water is the great destroyer. It rots the plywood, expands the drywall, and creates a humid microclimate that invites mold, the black lung of the architectural world. The windows. Contrary to popular belief, windows in abandoned buildings aren't usually broken by hoodlums first. They break due to the settling of the foundation. As the earth moves and the wood rots, the frame pinches a glass until it shatters under its own stress. The foundation, this is where the earth reclaims its territory. Roots from nearby trees sense the moisture trapped beneath the concrete slab and begin to exert tons of pressure, cracking the floorboards and eventually tilting the entire structure toward the dirt. What separates a boring ruin from a haunting one is the presence of personal artifacts. This is a phenomenon of the time capsule. In the world of urban exploration, there is a legendary quality to finding a house where the table is still set. A bowl of plastic fruit, a stack of newspapers from 1974, a child's shoe left at the bottom of the stairs. These objects act as emotional anchors. Without them, an abandoned building is just a pile of wood and stone. With them, it is a tragedy. Psychologists suggest that we are drawn to these objects because they trigger a narrative instinct. Our brains cannot see a lonely shoe without trying to invent the foot that wore it. We ask ourselves, what was the final argument that led them leaving? Did they realize they were never coming back? This fascination is linked to a concept known as anemoia, nostalgia for a time you've never actually known. When you look at a rusted-out Boeing 747 sitting in a desert boneyard, you aren't just looking at scrap metal. You are looking at the death of an era of glamour and movement. You feel a pang of loss for a flight you never took. Why we love ruin machines. While houses represent the personal, abandoned vehicles, planes, trains, and automobiles represent the societal. There is something uniquely mournful about a machine designed for speed that is now incapable of moving. A car, by definition, is an instrument of freedom. When you find a 1960s muscle car swallowed by vines in a rural barn, the irony is thick. The chrome is pitted, the leather is cracked, and the engine is a nest for field mice. The aviation boneyards. In places like the Mojave Desert, hundreds of commercial airliners sit in perfect rows. From the air, they look like toys. Up close, they are titans. They represent the white elephants of technology, too expensive to fix, too iconic to fully destroy. The train tracks to nowhere. In the forests of the Pacific Northwest or the Ural Mountains in Russia, steam locomotives sit on tracks that have long since disconnected from the main lines. They are iron ghosts, symbols of the Industrial Revolution being slowly digested by moss. These machines remind us that our technology has a shelf life. Today's state-of-the-art smartphone or electric vehicle will eventually be the rust bucket in a future explorer's video. It humbles us as the popularity of documenting these sites grows. So there's a heated debate about the ethics of trespassing for art. The motto of the urban exploration community has long been, take nothing but pictures, leave nothing but footprints. However, the reality is often messier. The digital footprint of a viral video can lead to the physical destruction of a site when a location becomes Instagram famous. Scrappers arrive to steal the copper wiring, and vandals arrive to spray paint the walls. There's a delicate balance to be struck. By documenting these places, we are creating a historical record of spaces that the official history books have forgotten. We are honoring the architecture of the common man. But by sharing them, we often accelerate their demise. To understand the full scope of this obsession, one must look at the specific imagery of the decaying luxury home. When a mansion is abandoned, the fall from grace is much steeper and therefore more captivating. Imagine a grand foyer with a crystal chandelier. In its prime, it was a symbol of status, wealth, and permanence. Now, the crystals are covered in a thick layer of gray dust, and the velvet curtains have been shredded by moths. The contrast between the intended grandeur and the current squalor creates a sublime experience, an aesthetic that is both beautiful and terrifying. The house is as seen above. It stands as a monument to the fact that wealth cannot buy an exemption from the laws of thermodynamics. Entropy is the only true universal constant. Whether it's a cottage or a castle, the sun will bleach the paint, the rain will rot the beams, and the wind will eventually blow through the empty window frames. If you leave an abandoned city alone for 500 years, what remains? We often think of nature as invading our spaces, but that is a human-centered perspective. Nature is invading. It is simply resuming its position. First come the weeds and the grasses, finding cracks in the sidewalk. Next come the vines, ivy and kudzu. These act as biological ropes, strangling structures and pulling them down. Eventually, trees take root in the rich compost of decaying carpets and floorboards. Their roots act like slow-motion dynamite, breaking apart the concrete foundations. In places like Chernobyl or the abandoned islands off the coast of Japan, we see a preview of a world without us. It is surprisingly lush. Animals return to the streets. Rare birds nest in the rafters of old schools. It suggests that while the human world is fragile, the living world is incredibly resilient. The beauty in the breakdown. Ultimately, our fascination with abandoned houses, cars, and planes stems from a desire to connect with authentic. In a world of plastic, digital screens, and mass-produced perfection, a ruin is honest. It doesn't hide its scars. It shows you exactly how it is falling apart. There is a strange comfort in knowing that everything ends. It relieves the pressure of perfection. When we walk through an abandoned hallway, we aren't just looking at trash or debris. We are looking at the passage of time made visible. We're looking at a story that has reached its final chapter, and there's a profound, quiet dignity in that. The next time you see a house with boarded-up windows or a rusted car sitting in a field, don't just see a blight. See a transition. See the house as seen above. A structure that has finished its service to humanity and is now beginning its long, slow journey back to the earth. We watch these videos and look at these photos because we want to know what happens when the lights go out. And the answer, it turns out, is a hauntingly beautiful symphony of dust, shadows, and the slow, steady heartbeat of the wild.